talk Kung Fu fighting.
Kung Fu.
So you can plug your business. You can, if you got links or anything to, if you got a website or whatever, we could do links and stuff below and
I'll send that to you.
all that good stuff.
Yeah, I run a karate school up in Oxford. We're actually merging pretty soon with a neighboring MMA school.
Oh, nice.
So they're still going to offer their boxing, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, and they're just adding karate to their curriculum. So it's not like you're losing the quality of a good karate school. It's you're gaining.
Right.
It's not just, oh, we're going to learn how to punch and kick. You're getting a dedicated karate school. It's more like an interdisciplinary MMA. So IMMA is what I'm calling it.
I mean, it kind of makes sense to bring in all the independent disciplines and then eventually have the one merge it all together too, right? So, yeah, you can specialize or you can, I mean, I remember one of the things about karate. I liked it. I think I did it for like 3 years. But it was a little tougher in the joints, like a lot of snapping, kicking.
Yeah, my knees are sore today.
Yeah. So it was tougher on the joints than some of the other stuff. And they said certain other martial arts are a little more rounded. It's not as tough on your joints for kicking and punching. And then of course, but I think every martial art, every form of fighting has its upsides and downsides, which is why MMA has kind of vetted all that out and kind of combined and took the best parts of each, put it together. But I think karate has a lot of great qualities all on its own.
There's only so many ways you can punch or kick somebody.
Mm-hmm.
There's only so many ways you can grab them and throw them or lock a joint. That's a limited number. It's not going to change. The only thing that changes is the perspective of the origin of the martial art and the rule sets that govern them. So, like, if you take Muay Thai, that was a martial warfare based in jungle environment. So, their hands are occupied, so they're using their elbows. Their a lot of roots and stuff to trip over, so you're jumping a lot. So, a lot of knees. You take karate. Karate grew up in Okinawa, which is beaches. So, you have a lot of short, compact stances for the Okinawan styles. And then when it moves over to Japan, you have more like a street situation. So you have your longer stances. You go to Kung Fu, you have more wide open spaces. So you can move around a whole lot more. It's all the same concepts, just perspective changes.
Based on the region and environment it
Yes.
derived from. Interesting, didn't know that.
And then the rule sets, which change everything. So boxing, you can only use your hands.
Right.
Taekwondo, that's mostly going to be your legs. Karate does everything. So at least mine does. It is rooted in self-defense. So it is everything that you can use to protect yourself and if you need to. But it's also got some of the advantages I've learned from sport training as well. So developing speed, conditioning, coordination, be able to go in and out real quick. So it's not something you would see in self-defense where it's like one strike, you're done. It's being able to do that and being able to pick your fight more. So as opposed to getting stuck in a situation where you have to use a situation technique. So I've adopted sports adaptability to self-defense, just makes it stronger.
Sports adaptability? What kind of explain that?
Take a boxers, they fill each other out for like the first minute or minute or two of a fight, which is good if you're able to do it. Oh, this person's playing around. Oh, they're not serious. I'm just playing around. These threats don't have anything behind them. Whereas if it's self-defense, you're just constantly in, I'm going to kill this person mode. So it's a lot more de-escalation based, a lot more... Instead
of killing, sometimes you may want to just diffuse them or...
Change their mind.
Yeah.
Or persuasively change their mind.
You want to try that? It's going to hurt. Try it again, it's going to hurt even more.
Right. And it's like, oh, that was my bad. Sorry, that was an accident. And you're like, my hand hurts and it was an accident. I don't I'm going to get another drink. But yeah, I'm at least at my size. People don't pick fights with me. They're like, okay. But I'm not the normal person. I've never tried to use myself as an example.
I don't consider myself the biggest person But people are like, oh, you're kind of intimidating. I'm like, really? I mean, okay. But I've noticed that people don't pick fights with me either.
Right.
But I'm also not a non-confident person. I'm pretty confident in myself.
That's
Someone's
a big issue.
starting issues, I'm staring right at them. And
Right. Like
and it's kind of like,
eyesight,
Yeah.
contact, awareness. Those are the first things to go if you don't have confidence.
Yeah.
So it's like another way of gauging a situation. It's like, oh, man, I don't know what you're talking about. It's like, oh, looking around trying to find an exit, like something to distract me with. Those are people that are going to get picked on. And you train your students to be able to keep alert to their surroundings because it changes the way you're perceived.
yeah, there's ancient wisdom that I've gone around and looked into different mythologies and different wisdoms, and one of them I really like is old Norse mythology. And there's a book called the Havamal where they talk about when you enter into a room, look into all the corners, make sure there's no threats. You know, it's this cautionary way of looking when you're going into new areas and going into new places that you've not been before. You got to be able to be aware and seek out those threats. And by doing that, like you're saying, you're more prepared for it, and others recognize that in you and are less likely to attack you. And it's even going back to like going downtown Detroit. If you're walking around with your head down, you're more likely to get mugged than you are to, you're facing the phone or whatever.
Easier
than
to-
if you're walking around with your head in the swivel scanning, like the Terminator, which is kind of how I walk. Maybe that's why people don't mess with me so much, but I don't know. And then skill and training gives you confidence too. And I think when you have confidence, you tend to walk more upright and head back, helps your posture, things like that, which looks more confident, looks stronger, you look bigger.
I think the training, more than anything, gives you humility. You find out I am incapable of a lot of things that I want to be able to do. I'm aging, my joints hurt, or I'm not as fast as my instructor, and he's just blowing me away with every technique. You really learn to be humble, and that humility protects you more than the skill. So the most dangerous person is a self-conscious person around a person of the opposite sex. They need to impress them. They need to appear bigger. They need to be impressive to the other person they're trying to show off. Those are people most likely to cause a problem.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, they want to beat their chest and act like
Right.
they're alpha male.
Right, which is hilarious because
I'm big and strong. Watch
I've
me
been in
take
that
this guy out.
situation where this guy's like, I'm an alpha male, and I'm like, really?
No, you're not. Because an alpha male would actually be confident and wouldn't be putting themselves
If
out
you
like
have to
that.
say it, it's not true.
It's like I make that equivalency of a young buck with he's just got his little antlers going and he's just running around just bucking into things and acting all tough, and then the confident ones, the one with the giant rack, sitting there like, really, son? You really wanted to do
It's
this?
like Joffrey from Game of Thrones. I am the king. It's like, if you have to say it, you're not the king.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So humility is part of it. Yeah, because you understand your limitations, but you're also
Not walking into danger.
right, and you're prepared for it if you do.
Right.
And that I think that's where the confidence comes in. The humility is another good thing too, because you realize that I can get smacked down, but I've
Yeah.
also been hit before, and I know what it feels like.
Right, like taking a shot to the liver will drop you so quick, and you're like, wow, the human body is extremely fragile. And at the same time, you like end up walking into your opponent's fist, and you're like, wow, that sucked, but it didn't hurt that bad.
Yeah, it didn't hurt as bad as I thought
It's
it
like
would. Yeah,
the body is extremely resilient and extremely fragile at the same time. And it's,
there was always something that triggered in me. Like my friend and I when we were done doing our training in the dojo, there was an upstairs dojo we would go to, and we had time because we were either waiting for a ride from my brother or whatever. It's like we would just go full bore, hitting each other as hard as we could. And there was something that triggered in me when someone hit me in the head. It wasn't fear. It was like, oh yeah, it's on. I'm like, oh, I like this. And I never really understood that.
no, that's,
But man, it also kind of made me afraid to, I'm really going to want to go into this because I was sometimes aspiring against people that were much higher level than me. And when they hit me, I'm like, oh, okay, then I can hit them really hard, and they didn't like it. So I don't know. So it always made me dial back a little bit because it's like there's a beast in there that someone just awoken, and I just need to slow down a little bit.
Right. So getting hit in the head is usually your best way to gauge whether a person is a fighter. That first hit, if they're shaking it off, like, oh, well, they're not going to be a person that can handle it. If they're like, oh, that was awesome, I want to do it again. Those are people I work with.
This is going to take a lot more.
But yeah, it definitely changes something. And like being able to have someone you trust, like that's going to throw these techniques at you, and they're not going to try to kill you or hurt you or cause severe damage. It's like that's a good environment.
Boy, oh boy.
It's like hockey, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a certain amount of you get in fights in hockey. I try to avoid that at 40 and over league. You think the hotheads are gone, but there's still occasionally some guys that just.
What would have happened in the 40 years to remove the hot-headedness from somebody?
Well, most of us get humbled, but
Most.
and most of us understand this shit's gonna hurt, and we got to work the next day, right? But every now and then there's a guy out there still thinks he's indestructible. It's like you got to teach him a lesson. Someone's got to step up and teach him a lesson. There's a self-regulation in hockey that I love. And it's you can see it in professional NHL. Once a long time ago, I think back in the day, like the late '80s, early '90s, they interviewed all the people from sports, and they went to every sport, all the major sports. Who's the best player in the league? I am. Baseball, basketball, football. I am.
Oh, yeah.
Hockey. Who's the best player in the league? That guy. Wayne Gretzky. Who's the best player in the league? Oh, that guy. They all pointed to somebody else in hockey because you know why? If you go out there and you start running your mouth, I'm the greatest ever, you're done. I'm going to get you. I'm going to smash you into boards. I'm going to fight you. You're going to shut up. You're not going to run your mouth like that. And they're all very humble as a result.
And it's worse if it's coming from the media. Because you're not the one bragging yourself up, it's the other guy.
And the media tends to they hype people up for some reason. It's like, oh, stop doing that. Stop doing that.
I'm from Pittsburgh. We have Sidney Crosby.
Oh no.
And like he got picked on in his first few years, really bad. And then he just started lighting people up, and they're like, oh, okay, I can respect this guy a little bit. I mean, he's not the biggest guy, but like he's still.
You know what? I will say this: he is a very skilled player. The thing I didn't like about him was he always seemed to whine. And it's like, people hitting him, pushing on him or whatever, and you can see him just, it's like, don't do that.
The only thing I ever seen was like in that winter class when he got the concussion. Like he couldn't play for a while from that.
Yeah, that was a strange one too, because they said it was more something in his neck than.
That was a bad one.
Yeah, and it kept him out for a while. But I was kind of hoping to at least humble him, and I think it did, because he didn't seem to whine nearly as much after that. And now, technically, his career's kind of starting to wind down, and it's a little weird to see.
I've been through 2 kids already. We had Ken Griffey Jr. was the kid, and now Sid the kid, and they're all both like
close to retirement or retiring. Yeah, it's like,
geesh.
Wow. Yeah, it's weird now because I'm thinking some of the Red Wings players, and there's players from Michigan that are like these kids, 20 years old, and they're coming in. It's like, wait a minute, man, those kids were all born when the Red Wings were like this dominant team and Steve Yzerman was running it, but now it's like Stevie's an old guy, and then it's like, man, I can't believe Steve Yzerman's an old guy, but I've got Steve Yzerman. These are actually some very old Steve Yzerman pictures up here. And to see him, it's like these could be almost his grandkids now, like coming up. But the fact that Red Wings team was so good for so long, it re-sparked the whole hockey movement in Michigan again. And now we've got so many good hockey programs here again. And now it's producing so many pro players again. But 20 years ago, 30 years ago, there wasn't that many Michigan hockey players in the NHL. But now, I mean, even the Red Wings have, 3 or 4 or 5 players from Michigan. Dylan Larkin, our captain from Waterford, not too far from here.
Right.
So it's like, holy cow. That's kind of cool. That's something that's impressive, and it's inspired people in the area. But it inspired me to play. I didn't grow up playing, and every year I grew up down in an area where I had a field behind my house. Every fall it would rain and flood, every winter it would freeze.
Mm-hmm.
We had ponds behind us every year, and I never skated. My brother did a little bit, but by the time my hometown had an ice rink, which was kind of rare for towns in Michigan, rollerblading became a thing. I was learning to rollerblade, and I was probably in my late teens, early 20s. Then I started playing ice hockey. Got in with a group of guys. Then I didn't really start playing ice hockey until I was 20. And then it's like, where's this game been my whole life? It's fast, it's exciting. You got to be agile. You got to think on the fly. And there's just so many aspects of it. And you can play tough, and you can get in fights.
You strike me as a defender.
I am. I'm a defenseman, yeah. And I have so much fun with it. And like I said, the self-governance, all the way down to the beer league levels and all the way up. And but when you're in your 20s, you play with indestructibility, and you were talking about the fragile parts of our bodies. I mean, where is it, when was it for you that you realize, like, I'm not that indestructible, and things are going to start hurting a lot, and I gotta maybe play or fight a little differently, or change my style to protect myself a little differently?
I don't know if I ever got to that point. I'm still a bit of a tank, but like I had a knee injury from weightlifting a few years ago. I was trying to do like a leg press, like 1,200 pounds, and my knee went like this, and it wasn't happy with that. So tore meniscus and stuff like that. Doctors never really diagnosed it properly or treated it, so I've been living with it. And it's like after a sparring day for 3 or 4 days, it's pretty stiff.
It's letting you know about it, yeah.
Right. So I'm never at the point where I'm in a situation where I would need to use my martial arts. I can't use something. It's not that. It's more of I'm going to feel it for a few days after. But maybe like the main issue I have is like what I realized initially is like I have an exuberant amount of power and strength just because as a kid I rode my bicycle everywhere. I was playing baseball. I was an athlete. But I had no flexibility. So I went to do a toe touch and I could barely get to my knees. And I've improved that a lot since. That's like been one of my things is I can do all this, but I have a severe limitation in flexibility, which limits how strong you can be. Because then you have like the strength and power in martial arts is the muscle elasticity. So if it's a rigid, like a rubber band, if it's hard, it's not going to go very far and it'll before it breaks. But if it's like a fresh rubber band, it can go all the way back real fast, and that's your more elastic. That's what you want your muscles. And mine are just like sometimes. So
Are there certain things that you find yourself more limited than other people because of that flexibility, or like I can remember
it's adapt to your situation.
I can remember like you do your stretches and stuff, and I was never great to stretch, but boy, I wanted to be Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Right.
It's like,
Doing a
that was ridiculous.
Split across 2 semis, yeah. Going in reverse.
But my goal was to kick, because I'm 5'10", but kick my head height with power.
Yes.
So I mean you can kick there, but if you can't kick there with power, but you had to have your stretch so that you could actually kick, with like a wheel kick and hit head height with power. So I knew if I got over somebody's shoulder and connected with their head with my foot, I'm knocking them right out.
Right.
But that was my goal. I mean, and I could tell you right now, I could probably barely kick above my waist with that same kick, because I haven't stretched. I haven't done any of that. And I don't even stretch for hockey anymore. I don't know. I'm a bit of a tank too. I just go out there and do my thing.
Right.
And
Like
I've been used to playing a certain way where I can just drive right through people. I'm heavier than most.
Yes.
I could drive right through them. Oh, was that somebody? I just knock them over.
I've had so many of those situations. Like I played basketball a lot. I was on the college basketball team, and then so many situations where like I'm setting a screen or something, and someone runs to the back of me and just like goes straight to the ground. Like, oh! I'm like,
oh, what happened?
But yeah, like I can throw a kick probably 8 inches above my head. In front of me, to the side, I'm struggling getting about rib level. So that's where I want to improve right now, is side kicks.
Fun. So, do you play any other sports now, or is it strictly just the karate kind of stuff? Or
I'll play any sport anyone wants to play. It's just finding people to play sports is it's hard the older you get. It's like, oh, I don't want to get hurt. I don't have time to do this. So I got to take the kids out.
Yeah, you don't have any kids, right? So, family tends to take a lot of your time. when I was playing hockey a lot, I was playing as a single man 3 to 4 times a week, no problem.
Right.
2 leagues, couple open skates and drop-ins all the time.
3 times.
All I had to do was I was in such good shape just doing that. All I had to do was lift weights once or twice a week and felt good, stayed in great shape. Now, kids, family, other obligations, I'm lucky to get once a week in, and that's on a league, and that sucks because every time you're out there, you're breaking rust off you before you get moving again. And hockey's one of those sports where you want to be in shape to play versus other sports you play to get into shape.
Yes.
So,
I get that. Like a couple of days I'm not stretching, and I feel it. So stretching has become a much more consistent part of my routine.
like you're saying, it's important, especially for karate, right? So, try to get back to your school and your class. What exactly do you train kids for? Do you train them for tournaments, or you train adults too, or?
Yeah, so kids and adults, we're looking to get into some tournaments. I want to get them to a level where I feel like they can compete competently and not have a risk of getting injured. So
Just going in there and getting wiped out and never wanting to go back.
exactly. So like, I'm training them for practical skills, being able to use it in any situation. I want them to be able to have control of their body. Like that's the most important thing martial arts can give you. Is like, can I do this? Yeah, I can probably do that. That confidence to be able to use find a situation and be able to work your way through it. And then like, oh, I can't do anything. I hurt my hand. I still got the other hand, but I can't use it that well. Or I can only throw kicks and I twisted my ankle.
You don't not gonna be like Rocky's manager and tie your left-handed, so tie that one back and start hitting with your right.
I mean, we do that kind of stuff but like karate doesn't have a hand in this either, so you have to be able to use both sides equally. So, yeah, so I think that's probably the most important thing you get. But yeah, we're trying to do some tournaments. There's some coming up beginning of the year. But like a lot of it's forms. So if someone doesn't want to do the combat, they can do forms and just do a really strong, confident, good control. That's all important. And I preach that for the beginners because that's how you learn to control your body. But like,
I never cared for forms, but I get it. It's a different.
it doesn't make sense until you explain what the motions do. And you're like, oh, you're breaking their arm in this direction and then pressing it on the neck. Like, oh, okay. Let me show you. Oh. But like I had a couple students that were not interested in forms until I was demonstrating what they were doing, and then we did some sparring, and I was doing the exact same techniques and just wiping them out.
Now, I recall the forms were very critical for advancing in belt levels.
It's the only way to really grade someone, yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I guess what else is there? I mean, to get to different grade levels or belt levels, is it really just the forms, or is there learning certain fighting techniques?
Yeah, there's the techniques, being able to throw them confidently, correctly, not letting your hands flail all over the place when you throw a kick. There's little things that you look for in the basics, the kihon, katas, the forms, and that's just how well you're able to group things together, or you're able to do a sequence without losing your balance or forgetting the motions. Being able to do it as a muscle memory as opposed to memory. Because when you forget memory, you stop, you think. Whereas if it's muscle memory, it's like just going through the motions, and you forgot, you go back through the motion again, and it comes back to you.
That's why training is important, right? Because you fail to the level of your training versus if you don't train, you fail, that you just lose all that, right?
Right.
Like you train to keep your arms up. Boxing's the same way, right? Keep your arms up, protect your head. If you get tired, your arms start dropping, or you get, like you said, arms flailing, and that's where someone can come in and get you. But if you're not well trained, you're not gonna stay that way.
Right. Like I had something I've always been good at, keeping those hands up. But the way I was taught is you train about 110, 120%. A fight's about 100%. But if you have to use your training, you're going to drop down to that 100 to use it. If you're training at 60 to 70%, you're going to drop down to 50% or so to use it in an actual situation where you need 100%. So you train hard, you train intensely, and when you need it, it's there for you.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's a 45-minute class. If you're not exhausted, you're probably not putting everything into it.
Very true. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, adult league hockey's 3 15-minute periods, so 45
Right.
minutes. And my thought is, if you're not exhausted by the end, what the fuck you doing out here?
Either the offense is really controlling the game, or you're just not doing it right. Or you're the goalie.
If you're just floating around out here, I'm not going to like it. It's a team effort out there. Sorry.
How do you treat the goalie?
I protect the goalie. I protect the goalie. You don't fuck with my goalie, man. No. You know, luckily it's like I said in the 40 and overs, it's not so bad. But the goalie I have, the dude, he's in his 60s, man. He is feisty. He is feisty, man. So there was one guy, that, like I said, there's one guy in the whole league. This actually he skates out of control and he just goes straight at people and he's hurt people before.
Yeah.
And it's like, you got to settle this guy down. And the only way to do it is to knock him around and say, dude, don't do that. He doesn't listen. And he's really weird. It's like, he'll run into you and then blame you for knocking him down. And I'm like, the fuck, dude? So at one point he took a shot at the goalie and then went wildly, flew off and all the way over into the boards and ran into the boards. What the fuck? You know,
Can't
everyone,
stop.
I don't know. He's not the greatest skater.
Okay.
He's a guy that started later in life, obviously, but he plays with like full-on intensity all the time. But it's just wild, and everyone's like over it. And another time, he kind of skated and he went toward the side of the goalie, and the goalie came out because he knew it was him and he doesn't like him, and he came out and blocked him. He went off the side of the net and back. The goalie took a penalty. So someone else has to sit in the box and the goalie stays out. But and another time, this guy came up the boards, and I kind of just smashed him in the boards. I didn't check him. I did what was legal and for what we're doing. I
drifted.
squeezed him. So we're both kind of, the boards are here,
Yeah.
he's here, I'm here. We can just kind of all converge in the boards, and I stuck him, and he just goes whoop, and he flails like a soccer player. And I get put in the box. I'm like, at this point, I'm like so pissed off. I'm like, he falls in his own ref. He's not been watching the whole game. I'm like, what the? But it's like. And then he gets up and blames me for throwing an elbow on him. I was like, dude, if I would have got an elbow, that was my shoulder. If I would have got an elbow on you. But anyway,
That's something I learned early in the.
I forget where I'm going with this, but he got me all fired up about this guy. But I'm protecting the goalie, I think is where it was at.
Something I learned early in the martial arts. If like I said, it's rule based. It defines everything.
Mm-hmm.
If you're getting called for penalties for hitting, make sure you earn that penalty on the next one.
Yeah, really.
It's like the low blows. Like if you're a boxer and someone keeps giving you low blows, and the ref's like, "You gotta stop with the low blows," but they keep doing it. Deliver one back, but make it hard enough where they're not going to do it again.
Yeah, answer the call, more or less, yeah. So sparring, like for tournaments and stuff like that, have you done much of that yourself?
Yes.
Or, so to land a point, like hitting, you're basically just tapping them. You really don't have to really hit them, or how does that really
In
work?
sport karate,
It's been forever for me. So.
It's demonstrating control to throw the technique, pull it back, and make contact but not deliver impact.
Right, so that snap and just kind of
Yes.
snap and return.
But in self-defense, it's training to not complete a technique. So it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. You get the control, but you train to not hit somebody, which is a bad mindset.
For self-defense, when you want to end it quickly, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the idea of a fight is kind of end it even before it starts, but if it's got to start, you got to end it quickly.
Right.
But just kind of tapping and going,
Right.
floating like a butterfly.
If you're going that fast and you're going full technique into somebody, that's dangerous. So I understand
Yeah.
not wanting to do that. So yeah, it makes sense. Just surface contact. That makes perfect sense for competition and at a high level, where you're not trying to like recover from broken ribs every week.
So there's really kind of 3 different ways in karate. One is learning the forms and techniques and progressing that way, and it's kind of an exercise and a mental physical discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's sparring and sparring for competition, which is, like you're saying, you're kind of pulling your punches a little bit, which is good for competition, but not good for a real life fighting. And then there's learning it for self-defense, which you kind of want to end it as quickly as possible, which might mean you need to get the knockout blow and or put them in some sort of submission or arm lock or something to
Like-
diffuse the situation quickly.
The most dangerous thing you can do is let a fight go on. Like, I'm gonna go back to my readings of like military doctrines. Like, the best war is a short war.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna tax your people. You're not gonna lose lives. You're not going to put hardship on the population that you're fighting with. The shortest war is the best war. So same thing with self-defense. If you're throwing punches, there's a chance you can break your wrist. So you don't want to be trading. There's a chance that they have a buddy that's going to pull a weapon. So you don't want to be there for 3 to 4 seconds on this guy not paying attention to what's around you. You need it to be over as quick as possible.
Makes sense, yeah. Well, is there anything else you want to add to what you're doing and where your business is going and
Like I said, we're just merging.
recruiting people?
We'll be going part of Bronco MMA or Bulls Boxing. We're up in Oxford. We're trying to get a tournament for sometime in either December or January. I think it's going to be January based off what I've seen. But it's going to be like just a free spar. Not trying to hurt each other, but like still learning something from getting hit. So punches will not be pulled, but they will not be finished.
So pre-COVID, I had my daughters in some local taekwondo, but I really think it'd be beneficial to get them into that again. They hit each other enough on their own, so
Right. I mean,
might as well learn how to do it properly. Yeah, maybe have the Kiley girls come in and do something with you real quick and show them a few things. And maybe we even get them enrolled.
I feel like girls are the most fun to work with because they're taught most of their life to hold back or don't be aggressive. And then you're telling them when you're in the class, hit it as hard as you want. And then you just see the smile creep up on their face. And it's just so enjoyable.
Yeah, you might have a handful with my oldest. She's tough.
Good. I like tough.
My little one is scary, but she's like a spider monkey.
Yes.
She can't hit you very hard, but she can climb all over you.
I mean, you got to use whatever you have. Like, I'm not going to use techniques from throwing splits in the air with these kicks. If I'm fighting someone that's that tall, I have other problems.
Yeah, really.
I'm going to try to get in, grab somebody and throw them. That's what I can do really well.
Take the knee out.
Oh, I love the throw. I love sweeps. I love taking the legs.
Big trees fall hard.
Right, unless you're me. Like, I've been in so many situations where people like are like trying to spar with me or trying to do a throw, and then they get close and like, he's not going anywhere. I am very well able to root myself. It's intuitive or something. Maybe from all those years of like bicycle riding, where you just have to have a good center of gravity, or baseball, just like constant low center of gravity, so you can shift and change directions real quick. But like, I always had that.
I think I've knocked out one guy on the ice by a check, and he was a good head taller than me, a big guy. And one of the things I always hate is a cherry picker. Like when you're deep in their zone, and they got a guy stringing out behind you as defenseman.
I know this.
And all of a sudden, someone flips the puck up to him, and he was a big guy. He had a great shot, and he got all the way up to the far corner of my blue line. I came across ice, and he tried to go in, and then he tried to cut back. I intercepted him, and I got below him, like a Russian-style low hip check, and I got under his hips, and he went up and over me and landed flat on the ice. I don't think that big guy ever got lit up like that before, because it was like he got up slowly with like Tweety birds flying over his head, man. It was so clean how I did it, because I literally just went right through him, and and the puck went with me, and I just, as I kind of got my head up and sweep the puck and start skating around. And I was halfway around the goalie by the time the referee even blew the whistle. It was so clean, man. But it's, low center of gravity is something, and just getting that balance. But like you're saying, like training and quad strength, leg strength is very big for a lot of that. And the hockey players are pretty well known for that. The Russians were really big for doing a lot of exercises with their legs. And
I was also one of those kids that did like the 24-hour roller rinks and like do all-nighters, and I just go the whole night back and forth between hockey or ice skating and roller skating. So that also built up my ridiculous leg strength as a kid.
Yeah, and then just gliding one leg, balancing, and a lot of that stuff. And I do think a lot of that carried over in some muscle memory, because there was a big gap between when I did karate and then when I started hockey. And I even recall when I started playing hockey, it's like, oh, that balance. I wish I still had that balance like I did when I was taking karate, because it would accelerate my learning and my ability to skate with ice hockey. But it was one of those things where it's like I was young, I had all kinds of time, and I just dedicated a ton of time toward it, and I picked it up really well to the point where a few years after I started playing, people are like, "Where did you play?" I'm like, "I just started pick this up a couple years ago." like no way. I'm like, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it's
watching Mickey Redmond and the Telestrator and UPN 50 of the Red Wings games is like, I learned the game. And it's like I learned strategy, and then I learned the physical side of it, and then I could blend in really fast. And I didn't have all the same skills that everyone did, because so much of that takes so much time. And
yeah, puck handling. It takes
yeah, puck
time,
handling I was never great at, and I'm still
which is why you're a defender.
right. Hit them hard, get them off the puck, and hike that puck out of there. Yeah, it's so much fun though, and you almost make me want to. I would love to get back into some sort of contact sport like that, but the problems I've had with my eyes and the surgeries I've had in my eyes, it's like I can't risk it.
No, I understand.
I can't risk a tap to the eye. I mean, I keep thinking, well, if I had headgear or goggles or something, I could spar. It wouldn't be the same. I wouldn't like it. But man, I miss it. I do miss it. I'd like to get back into it, but I do have a punching bag over there. It's the same one I had as a teenager. We'll take a look at that here.
The same one I had.
Yeah, the Everlast. You saw it?
The blue one.
Yeah. All right. Well, is there anything else you want to say? Anything you want to?
Do you want to talk about any of the CyberTruck or?
Well, what's your opinion on the CyberTruck overall? I mean, I know you're a Tesla owner. It's a very divisive vehicle where some people love it, some people hate it, some people think it's not practical, other people think it's totally practical. Where do you lie on that?
I think it's a bit of all of that. Like the ridiculous windshield wiper is a bit impractical, but like at the same time, I understand the trade-offs that were being considered for that. Like you want high aerodynamics, so you don't want that windshield going under the hood because that's a small area of turbulence. So it's like everything's meant for that, but at the same time, it looks horrible. Like that windshield wiper is going to have a lot of air resistance itself. So.
Yeah. You don't see it on the toy here, but yeah, it's going to be. I even thought about like adding one. I've probably tried to do that digitally, but or even building one to kind of keep the look. Yeah, Tesla's very good at figuring out those trade-offs where, okay, yeah, what's better, the aerodynamics or just having the one big wiper or two small wipers versus one, and of course they like less parts. So I think that maybe played some considerations into it. I think it's a really cool vehicle. I like the idea of stainless steel. I think about a truck as like a toolbox.
Makes sense.
Like if you got an old steel toolbox and if you had that in any environment other than indoors, it's going to get rusty fast, even the nice painted ones. But if you had a stainless steel toolbox, I think it'll probably last forever.
Yeah,
and then,
for the most part, like they're using 304,
which does rust, but
under conditions, it's just really good in atmospheric and water.
Mm-hmm.
But like you start adding road salts, it gets interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Water retention becomes a problem. Like you get hydrogen embrittlement on crevices or
we're getting into the chemistry side. All right, here we go.
So like it's not going to be 304. It's going to be something. So like if you're familiar with like 315, 316 stainless, those are the chrome levels, nickel chrome levels. 14% nickel, 16% nickel. So they're probably going to do 304, but I'm expecting they're going to get around some of the corrosion potential issues. They're going to add a lot of more manganese. Manganese is just a corrosion resistant material, so they used it for hardening gun barrels in World War II. So it's just toughens the material. That's going to be increased a lot, so it should be good corrosion resistance wise. Yet again, Elon doesn't spend much time in Michigan. I don't know if he's prepared for a Michigan winter with road salts.
I think it'll be a little bit like for CyberTruck. It'll be a bit of like like a Jeep with mud on it. Like if you can get some rust on it, because it won't go through because it's 3 millimeters thick. It'll get a surface rust maybe, and you'll maybe have that kind of spotty brown corrosion on it. But I don't think it'll be, even if you don't take care of it right. But you could probably get some steel wool and shine it right off, even if it has some pitting in it. But yeah, my experience with 304 stainless was I had a Borla exhaust system on my Camaro. So you're dealing with a thin-walled stainless, but it was on a high-temperature environment. It's all cat-back system. And that the original exhaust system was a 409 stainless, which did rust, but it didn't rust through. Growing up in Michigan, working on cars in Michigan, old standard exhaust systems, you're talking 3 to 5 years, and they're just, you can put your finger through it. You know, it's like, so 409 stainless, it was, I took it off after 5-6 years of the cars being on the road, and I didn't drive it in the winter much, but it could take it off, but it was very brownish, a little rusty on some edges and stuff. 304 stainless I put on, and it was sectioned, so it had the special stainless steel clamps and everything else. Years later, even driving around Michigan, driving North Carolina, driving Indiana, years later, I can unbolt every bolt on an exhaust system and bolt it back up. Unreal, because I'm so used to exhaust systems. Once it rusts, it's one piece, you're cutting it shit off, forget it. And living down south, I like, they didn't have that problem. You could put a little WD-40, break some bolts off. I'm like, that's kind of weird. So I was used to things rusting a lot. So, but I think that's going to last a lot longer. The body will last a lot longer than all modern trucks built, even the aluminum ones. And the aluminum ones, think about an aluminum lunchbox, man, things get dented up, beat up, and it's going to look like shit in no time.
So what's going to be your failure point on that?
On what, the stainless?
The vehicle itself. So maybe ball joints, suspension.
Suspension will probably be, yeah. I mean, it's going to wear and tear like any other vehicle. But most vehicles, God, you get 50, 100,000 miles before you get any real issues out of ball joints. God, there won't be much service on that thing. I mean, regenerative brakes makes your standard brakes last longer. So yeah, I don't know, man. I like the low serviceability side of EVs. Being a guy who's wrenched on cars his whole life, I like it. It's like, I don't want to change my oil anymore. I don't want to do that stuff anymore. It's like an EV is very appealing with all that. Right.
Like I know, like with mine, I'm excited. Like my service is going to be improving the vehicle. I'm not keeping it running. So they recently opened up the biohazard mode filter for some of the older Model Ys. I'm going to get that. Put some winter tires
So upgrade it, yeah.
But it's not going to be, oh, this part's not working anymore, I need to replace it. It's going to be, ooh, this new feature's available, I want to get that.
Time to upgrade, yeah.
So excited about that.
And that was kind of when I owned more of a performance car like my Camaro. It was very much the same way. Upgrades are usually optional. Sometimes if money allowed, I'm just going to upgrade. But the fact it's like the exhaust, you know, yeah, so let's really upgrade that. You know, it's as soon as something wears out, it's like definitely time to upgrade. Yeah, ball joints and bushings. Let's go polyurethane bushings, polygraphite bushings. You know, get better stiffness out of it and better performance. Yeah, everything. Yeah, tires wear out. Time to get better tires, rims and tires. You know, just.
Ooh, there's gonna be some expensive tires.
Yeah. So those gonna be interesting. I don't like the wheel covers. Get rid of those.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of them fall off already. So.
They don't look right. They look like you would knock those things right off if you're off roading.
Oh yeah, easily.
Because they stick out, right? I mean, you just rub on something, it's gone.
You want like a zero surface generally.
Yeah. So, but I think overall, I would want to get in it and drive it. I think the utility of it will be very, very, very good. Because to me, like I said, a truck's a toolbox. You do work with it. Whether you don't really care how well it looks, but you care how it performs. 95% of the people out there don't do long haul towing.
Right.
That's probably its biggest shortcoming is long haul towing. Teslas will fare better than like the F-150 Lightning or even Rivians or stuff like that.
Now, why is it going to fare better? They should have similar battery size.
Charging network, first of all.
Charging network, yes. but like the towing is gonna decrease your efficiency. So like I remember seeing someone did a Ford towing and they got like 75 miles out of it, and they were like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it back.
Yeah, and that's more than half, right? So it's actually almost a third, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen people tow with Rivians, and that's like half's their mileage. But if you're dealing with a 400-mile range and it halves your range down to about 200 miles of towing. But I don't know. I mean, I've never done long haul towing, and I don't know a lot of people that do. For those that do some sort of range extension type vehicle, whatever Dodge is planning on offering, if they even can get it out there, and that might be a way to go for anyway, doing long haul towing. But I think that's also a baby step to something more. So that being said, with batteries, what do you see in the future? Anything in the near future or in the not so near future that would improve range and drivability and recharge ability and on vehicles like that? I mean,
So a lot of that will come down like the actual schematics and layout of the battery. The more cells you have in parallel, the more you're able to put high charges into it. So a lot of people are doing one parallel, many series to deal with bigger battery cells, so they can pack as many cells as possible in like into a space. If they're using the round cells, they can have a lot more cells. So they have parallelism. That lets them charge faster. Their onboard charging unit lets them charge faster. It's less, doesn't have like the MOSFETs. MOSFETs aren't like what's the other guys called? The wire bonds under the gel stuff. I forget what those called. Those are inefficient. They generate too much heat. It's the little stuff in this thing makes it more efficient. So I think with battery tech, what they're going to do is they're going to find ways to cut weight. They're going to make more dense anodes and cathodes. They're going to make changes in electrolyte chemistries, and that'll improve things. But they're going to be slightly better iterations as opposed to revolutionary technologies. I think the biggest tech will be for energy storage, where they're going more to sodium ion, which will free lithium ion up for EVs more.
I don't know how to follow up that with a question, but no, that's some in-depth knowledge. So, yeah, I think lightening the vehicle up overall, not just the battery pack. I mean, battery packs themselves are heavy, so if you figure out ways to lighten the battery pack up, you increase energy density that way, correct?
Yes.
And then on top of that, performance vehicles were the same way, right? So
Big motor.
you can
Small car.
there's two ways to go fast. One is, increase the power or the size of your engine, which, makes you go faster, but it doesn't help you anywhere else, and it decreases your fuel economy, efficiency, blah, blah, blah. The other way is to make your car as light as possible. And when you make your car light as possible, it is not only faster, it stops better, it's quicker in the turns, better balance, and more efficient. So lighten up the vehicle as much as you can is a way to make it far more efficient and better performing overall. Trucks have a long way to go. Like, we see how heavy like the Hummer is, and that's General Motors' really first approach to it. It's almost 10,000 pounds of beast rolling down the road. People are saying the CyberTruck's gonna be heavy at 7,000 pounds, but honestly, have you looked at the weights of some trucks out there now? I mean, and there's room to improve. So, and Tesla seems to master the way of constant improvement. And even if you can match them now, they're going to be 10 steps ahead of you by the time you match them where they're at currently.
Oh yeah.
So I think getting the vehicle lighter over time, and maybe if they get off the idea of, maybe if they make a smaller, lighter version that's not bulletproof, maybe they can increase the efficiency, which would also increase the performance in range under towing, because you're towing less of the vehicle and more of the weight. So yeah, there's there's a lot of interesting things about that truck, and I'd like to see it enter the market, but I think it's also a sign of doom for the big three, because that's where they make all their money. Is their bread and butter is their pickup trucks, right?
You might not have heard much in the news from them in the last few days, but I think they're getting ready for the counter-offensive on the media front for whenever this thing is released.
Well, I'm sure there's going to be a shitstorm of negativity coming out at it. But it's like you can't stop Tesla now. There's too much momentum.
That was a while ago. You couldn't stop them.
Yeah, and they keep saying, oh, look at this thing. It's having such a hard time climbing a hill. It's like, you realize how steep that hill is? And you know how many vehicles can't get up that hill? I mean, like, don't worry. I mean, it's going to be fine. In fact, how often do you bring your vehicle out and go up a hill like that? I mean, I don't know.
That was street tires, too. It was
Yeah.
not off-roading tires.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, that's kind of what Tesla's MO is, right? It's like Model S Plaid wheels up on a drag strip. It's got whatever tires it's got, and and you take Hellcats and they're putting drag slicks and stuff on it, and like they still can't match this car. It's like,
My favorite was a guy who did a race with like a load of groceries in his back seat.
it's amazing because as someone who's tried to build streetcars, and I thought the goal as a streetcar is you want to be able to drive them on the road, and you want to be able to race them. So for me, it was drag strips, right? But I want to be able to drive it to the track and back. And if you do it well, you could build a car that's fast and still have you could put your mother in it and she can go to the store and get groceries with it. You get that right out of the box with a Tesla. And to me, it's just like, I'm done. I can't compete with this. I can't build a 9-second car and still put my mom in it and drive down the road. And it's like, you just can't do that for the price either. It's like, so it's been game over for me a lot, and it's a little bit disheartening because it's the world I came from is internal combustion engines, research and development all the way, dyno racing. I've done it all, and then to see an EV come around and just smoke all of my favorites. But you know what though, fast is fast, and I originally came from the RC cars. The RC cars were the ones you built up as a kit. You get the battery packs, the motors. You could swap motors. You could swap gears. I started learning things about gear ratios. My buddies and I were even taking motors, and we were taking, okay, this armature has this many windings and blah, 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 and this one has this many, and if you do this, it'll increase RPM or decrease torque, blah, blah, blah. So we were figuring things out as a teenager and how to make electric motors better, how to just increase battery packs, blah, blah, blah. We were doing a lot of that. And I kept thinking, this little motor I have with 8.5 volts turns 40,000 RPM. And
right?
my brother and my stepdad are building an engine. It's like, we get 6,000 RPM out of that. I'm thinking, how can we make this, operate in that? So the idea has always been there, and it's really cool to see it come around again. AC motors are another trick on top of that. Lithium-ion battery packs have been really the big key. And the fact that Tesla was brave enough to build a car and make it so, and without they don't have any legacy issues. If Legacy Auto built Model S or Model 3 or Model Y, and it obsoletes everything they currently have, then all that investment and everything they currently have is now worthless, and they just destroyed their own business by building a car like that. So they couldn't do it. So it took someone else outside of them to do that.
They do have some legacy issues now, though. They how slow they were able to transition the Model 3 over to Giga castings, and some of the other advantages that they got with the Model Y is a sign that they're hitting legacy status in some of their areas. They're willing to change that stuff whenever they do get the opportunity, but because it's like changing the wheels when your car is going 80 miles an hour down the road. Someone said that. It might have been an Elon quote, but that's the sign that you've hit legacy in some areas. So
true, yeah, because they have to put a hold on what they're doing, sell off basically everything they've got, and then it's almost as if they almost need to pause production completely, sell out everything they have, wait until and then do a restart, and then your demand will shoot through the roof. But yeah, they've made so many changes and iterations that went to the Model Y, and then as we've seen firsthand, gigacastings and structural battery packs and stuff like that, they need to really kind of get that going. Man, they need to put that on airplane mode.
So many people are doing those now. So, like, it's
Who all before said it couldn't be done, but now all of a sudden they're doing it, right?
like what the big three have done for years is wait and see what the other guy does, and then we're going to adopt some of that stuff.
It's called the fast follower approach.
And they're still doing it. So, I know everyone's getting into gigacasting now. Everyone's getting into different battery cells chemistries, different battery cell formats. They're still avoiding cylindricals because they don't really have any suppliers for that. But that's basically what it's been. The fast follower, right? So Stellantis, they're doing that. The Germans are doing all that. The British, whatever ones, they're doing it. And the big three are all doing it.
Well, when Stellantis was still FCA, they sold off almost all of their R&D. And while I was still at GM during that, they were trying to force mergers with GM for their R&D. They wanted GM's R&D division to work with them. And I was like, GM's like in the top 5, and you're like, you're not even in the top 10. Why would we merge with you? But that was many years ago, and it was like, they did that, exactly what I was saying earlier. They sold off their future by getting rid of all their R&D. And probably one of those motions where it's like, okay, we got to pay our UAW guys more, and then we're going to go after guys that aren't making profits. Well, R&D doesn't make any profits, right? They don't make any profits now. But they only build your products. They come up with your products for the future. But the bookkeepers, well, that's not helping us now, so just get rid of all of them. And then they sold off their future. Now they're like, hey, where's our new product? We don't have that.
Ford hasn't released it yet.
And then the fast follower approach, like you're saying, is what they've been doing. It's like, so somebody else will spend all the money and capital and upfront cost to develop something new, and then prove out whether it works. And then all they have to do is grab it, tear it apart, copy it.
Right,
and then,
was what Monroe was.
Right.
And they don't have that anymore.
Right. And then, but the difference now is that might have worked had another company did what they used to do. They build it and then they just run with it for a while. Tesla doesn't sit still.
Right.
They keep innovating. They keep going. So like what we did at Monroe, had we take the latest, greatest Tesla like we did and tore it apart, by the time, the few months it took for us to tear apart and detail every little nut and bolt,
There was already changes.
there was already many changes. So it was already an obsolete report by the time it was done.
I've been on those production lines. There's new product being tested on the lines at all times. So,
has to be a little bit infuriating, but seeing the results on the outside, I'm like, man, okay, I see it now. That's definitely the way the future way needs to be done.
it was definitely infuriating. It's more like, okay, just track your samples so I don't have to find them like 3 hours from now.
So, wow. Well, I think this has been a good talk, and I think we can wrap this up here.
All right.
Anytime you want to come back, and like I said, maybe work something out and get the girls up to your karate school and show them a few things.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Maybe, if you don't mind, maybe we can film a little bit.
Absolutely.
Okay, sounds good. All right, Antonio, this has been fun. I've got empty glasses now, but
Cheers.
cheers. Be kind to your servers, tip them well, and we're all done for the night.
All right. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. On Pub Wisdom, we solve the world's problems one beer at a time, and then quickly forget about them the next day.
We gonna drink now and here.